First and foremost, it just revealed the kind of character that we have. The toughness, the relentless spirit, the flexibility.
This week, an odd event occurred, and virtually no one in the mainstream sports media wants to discuss it openly. An unbeaten team's head coach, a respected figure with a championship background, abruptly fell silent. No press conference. Nothing to say. No justification. She just removed herself off the internet and vanished into thin air as if she had something to conceal. And the question that everyone ought to be asking is straightforward. Why would a winning coach who is atop the league standings abandon the very supporters who are packing the stadium? You wouldn't believe how messy the answer is. You can't unsee it after you've seen it. This is a tale about pressure, power, and a sport that recently received the greatest gift in its history and is managing to screw it up in front of everyone. It tells the tale of Caitlin Clark, the rookie who made appointment television out of a sleepy league. It is also about the folks who appear determined to make her life as difficult as possible rather than to celebrate her. What you're going to hear is not a take. It's a pattern. Finally, the pattern is too loud to ignore. Stephanie White, the head coach of the Connecticut Sun, is the coach in question. She's not just any old person. She was once named Coach of the Year. She used to be the head coach of Caitlin Clark's current squad, the Indiana Fever. She is familiar with the franchise. The player is someone she knows. She sat in that same chair before Clark ever came, so she knows precisely what kind of celebrity Clark is. And that's what makes what followed so startling. Because of the intense and swift response that followed her current team's performance against the Heat in what fans called one of the harshest games of the season. Her social media accounts vanished in a matter of hours. Accounts are now deleted for a variety of reasons. Nobody is going to blame someone for taking a step back because of their mental health, privacy, or a terrible day. However, timing is crucial in this situation. Her posts and the Sun's official pages began to get thousands and then tens of thousands of comments, which prompted the deletion. Fans were upset and demanded explanations, but the account just vanished without receiving any type of public comment. For many viewers, it appeared to be capitulation rather than self-care. This is the bit that hurts even more. Before moving, Stephanie White was the head coach of the Fever. She, of all people, is aware of what a generational talent looks like when they enter your home. After Clark was drafted, she saw the franchise change practically overnight. The sellouts were visible to her. The unfamiliar faces in the spectators caught her attention. She was more aware than most that the current events in Indiana are once in a lifetime. Because of this, her current team seemed to play with a certain edge, determination, and desire to put hands on the rookie every time she crossed half court, which made it difficult for fans to tolerate. Is it a coincidence? Perhaps. However, the optics were harsh. And optics will be crucial in 2026. However, that was only a spark. The actual fire originated in a different location. Let's discuss the actual game since, based solely on the box score, you could assume that it was just another typical professional basketball game. The Sun prevailed. The Fever subsided. Clark posted figures. Proceed. However, the transmission was viewed differently by those who actually watched it. Clark was being physically assaulted by screens unrelated to the play from the first hint. Cuts were being thrust upon her. On the outside, she was being grabbed. She was striking the ground. A lot. What about the whistles? It was disturbingly quiet. In certain scenes, she would be knocked sideways, but the game would continue as if nothing had happened. Basketball now incorporates physicality. There is no dispute about that. There are hard fouls. Rookies are tested by veterans. There is a distinction between testing someone and targeting them, even if that history predates the league itself. Furthermore, there is a clear distinction between the two items. The same thing was being said in unison by fans who had followed the sport for decades. This didn't appear to be a defense. It appeared to be a plan. Additionally, the plan appeared to be straightforward. Make her feel uneasy. Make her ask the same question again. Make the game stick in her body long after she leaves the stadium. Clark was hip-checked away from the ball, hit the hardwood, and the call on the floor hardly registered in the video that went viral. That video became viral in a matter of minutes. Reddit, Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. Furthermore, it wasn't just shared by Clark enthusiasts. There were casual fans, NBA enthusiasts, and even folks who had never seen a WNBA game. The message conveyed by the clip spread more quickly than any league press statement could. Please do me a favor before we continue. If you're still watching, please like the video and let me know in the comments if you believe that what has occurred at Clark is typical rookie treatment or something more intentional. I read every single comment, and your opinions really influence what we discuss next. Now, let's continue since things really started to get out of control in this next section. It's not hyperbole to say that the fan response was unlike anything the league has ever witnessed. The WNBA existed in a sort of quiet cocoon for the most of its existence. Fans were few but devoted. The discussions took place in specialized settings. There was hardly a national audience, thus there was no national indignation cycle. The day Clark entered the league, that all changed. All of a sudden, millions of people who had never before paid attention were watching every game. Accounts with enormous followings were clipping, analyzing, and sharing every contentious play. Every referee, coach, and veteran was now working under a microscope that was unfamiliar to them. Therefore, there weren't a few hundred irate supporters when Stephanie White's squad played that game. The tidal wave was digital. The comment sections were overflowing. Hashtags became popular. Women's basketball was suddenly in the forefront of sports talk shows that would typically overlook it, and the pattern didn't. For all of this, league defenders have a standard response. They refer to it as, "Welcome to the league." It's said that every rookie experiences it. They claim that Clark is only a high-profile target due to her notoriety. To be fair, there is some truth to that. It is true that rookies are tested. Stars do receive more attention. That is true. However, the scenario is different because of the volume, the consistency, and the absence of consequences. Fans start asking questions when a player spends more time on the floor than any other rookie and when the whistles frequently do not correspond with the contact. And just because someone on a panel show labels the fans naive doesn't mean those queries will go away. The picture gets more unsettling the deeper you go. Then there is the sensitive topic of veteran resentment, which must be discussed as it is at the heart of a lot of the discussion. Many fans perceived the reaction of some of the league's veteran class when Clark was excluded from the first Olympic roster in 2024 as more satisfaction than sportsmanship. Podcasts received reviews, comments, and raised eyebrows. Some players publicly implied that Clark was not deserving of the attention she was receiving, or that it had something to do with things other than her playing. Whether it was intended as a shot, Diana Taurasi's now famous reality is coming statement was repeatedly aired. To be clear, Clark has received a warm greeting from many veterans. Many of them have talked about how her presence has affected their visibility, travel circumstances, and income. However, there is a sizable group that can't seem to contain their annoyance at how soon she was given the limelight. And it becomes an issue rather than a vibe when that annoyance manifests as late hits and off-ball performances. Fans are not foolish. They are able to distinguish between competitors who wish to harm you and those who wish to defeat you. And far too many nights these days resemble the second one. This is what makes the resentment so peculiar. These veterans are not being taken advantage of by Clark. She has given them more than they have ever had, if anything. The charter flights they had been requesting for years? Approved in part because the league finally had the cash to support it, and as soon as Clark joined, that revenue skyrocketed. The larger contracts that will be negotiated in the upcoming CBA? Built on the success of the ratings, she is bringing in sponsorship money for the league as a result of the attention she attracts. Because of what this rookie unlocked, every player in the WNBA is earning more money, receiving more attention, and playing in better conditions. However, certain members of the locker room culture have somehow determined that animosity is the appropriate reaction. That is not merely regrettable. It is almost impossible to put into words how self-destructive that is. No podcast has been able to distort the story that the numbers reveal. WNBA viewership was a rounding error in the larger sports world prior to Clark. The average ratings for the games were low. Attendance at arenas outside of a few markets, both national broadcasts and promotions, were infrequent. Overnight, a whole chart tilted upward after her arrival. Records were broken with her debut. Arenas that hadn't been packed in years sold out for her tour show. In league history, Her rookie jersey sold the fastest. Television networks began battling over the rights after treating WNBA broadcasts as fillers in the past. Clark game weekends indicated considerable boosts to local economy and locations the Fever visited. This is a major bump. The league's economic realities has completely changed as a result. The value of franchises has increased. Discussions for expansion have quickened. There are now new ownership groups involved. After pleading for relevance for decades, the league office now has more power than it has ever had. And one player, a rookie, is largely responsible for it all. One generational talent is being asked to take hit after hit while those who gain from her presence remain silent about her treatment. Now consider for a second how a player of this caliber would be treated by any other professional sports league. Imagine a QB in the NFL earning these kinds of ratings. The league would be sending officials memos within a single game. The fines would be soaring in 2 games, and in 3 to safeguard the asset, the regulations will be subtly changed. That isn't corruption. In business, that is compensation. Leagues safeguard their profitable assets. They safeguard their cultural relevance. Players who put children in the stands are protected. It's not a contentious stance. It is the whole reason professional sports are a business in the present era. This is the point at which it is impossible to overlook the historical parallel. Consider the NBA in the latter part of the 1980s. The league was being torn apart by a rookie shooting guard from North Carolina. Each side had a strategy for dealing with him, and the majority of those strategies included physical punishment. The Detroit Pistons actually had a documented set of regulations known as the Jordan Rules, created to maximize the agony of each drive to the hoop. It worked for a few years. Jordan fell to the ground. He became irritated. It even caused him to lose a playoff series. However, this is what the NBA headquarters and David Stern did. They observed, studied, and gradually altered the way the game was officiated. They tightened their hand-checking regulations. They placed a strong emphasis on mobility. They shielded scorers because they knew deep down that Jordan was the driving force behind the entire operation, not because they personally adored him. Now pose a sincere query to yourself. Would the NBA have developed into the worldwide powerhouse it is today if the bad boys had continued to abuse Jordan without facing any repercussions? Would his name be the foundation of a billion-dollar shoe company? Would basketball rank as the world's second most popular sport? Most likely, the answer is no. The NBA expanded as a result of the league office's decision to prioritize the future over the past. Instead of the system, they opted for the star. Growth was more important to them than resentment. And with the same type of athlete, the WNBA is currently at the same crossroads. The only thing to consider is if those in authority are prepared to make the same decision. The indications are not promising thus far. The most heinous hits have only received minor fines. Suspensions have been infrequent. Leadership in the league has been so circumspect in their public remarks that they are useless. Additionally, insiders have always responded to fan backlash with some form of calm down. This is typical. Fans, however, are not settling down. They're becoming more audible. They are becoming increasingly well-organized. Additionally, they are beginning to cast the one vote that genuinely influences a professional sports league: their cash. Sponsors are keeping an eye on things. Nobody in the room wants to say that out loud. However, that is the reality. To be linked to viral videos of their spokesperson hip-checking into the scorer's table, major businesses did not invest millions in WNBA deals. They took action since the league appeared to be a growing enterprise at last. Checks become smaller, relationships become quieter, and renewals decrease if that growth narrative is substituted with a chaos narrative.